All right. Welcome to this webinar of SketchUp. We're going to talk about all the new features of this next version of SketchUp. Just before starting, I would like to remind you that this version, if you got an active license of SketchUp, it is actually free to be downloaded. You can download it and test it out. It will not delete your previous version of SketchUp. It will just be installed on your desktop, and you will be able to use it to take advantage of all these new features in this new version. So let's wait another few minutes. I can see that there are more and more people joining. Hello, everyone. I'm glad to see all of you coming. Perfect. So in the meantime, maybe we can start by talking about the rules of our webinar. This webinar will be recorded and it will be shared afterwards. I remind you that the cameras and the microphones, they are disabled. And so if you need to ask some questions about any topic, do not hesitate to do it. And I will read this question at the end of the webinar and answer to any question that you may have. As you're very numerous to this webinar, I'm pretty sure that I will not be able to answer to all the questions. Also, we've got a lot of information to go through. So all the questions that will not be answered today, I will make sure that we will answer in a document, and we can send this document to you afterwards. So, and thank you so much for joining. So who am I? So I'm Francesca. I'm part of the SketchUp team. I'm actually a partner success manager, and I will be conducting this webinar today in the place of my colleague Martin. This is a last-minute change, so I will be conducting this webinar. I'm actually Italian. I'm based in France, and my previous professional experience is into interior architecture. So I've used for many years SketchUp as the main tool to be able to develop my work ideas, convey my ideas, and communicate over all my projects. So I really love this software, and I hope today I'm going to exchange with you this passion for SketchUp. Okay, so what is new in this next version of SketchUp? So we've got a lot of different news, and we cover 4 different topics: the collaboration, the documentation, the context, and the visualization. In the collaboration topic, we have a tool that allows us to promote design as a conversation, that allows us to get feedback very quickly and straight into the context without ever leaving SketchUp. We can share our model in different ways, and also including a private way. We will see all the stuff in detail just after. In the topic of documentation, we made layout, a lot of improvements in layout, our documentation secondary application. Layout now is becoming more user-friendly. We find more tools that they're very easy to use, and they're very much in line with all the tools present in SketchUp. And also we made a lot of improvements into the interoperability. For example, making both layout and SketchUp compatible more and more with DWG files in the import and export. We'll see all of that later. We've also improved many aspects in the integration of real context inside of SketchUp, for example, by improving the tools of Add Location and Scan Essentials. And we've also got improvements also in terms of the visualization, continuing in line with all the improvements that we brought with SketchUp 2025, and giving always more control to the users in order to be able to customize the views of their projects and to communicate over these projects. And then there are also other minor improvements on different miscellaneous topics, which are minor improvements, but they can give and add a lot of value and speed up the work on SketchUp. We'll see all of this just in a bit. So let's start with the main key features of our launch, the collaboration. So this collaboration feature is actually a development of the previous functionality of link share, through which we could actually share a link with people that they were inside or outside of our team, people that they also didn't have a SketchUp license. So now we've improved that feature and we added more functionality. It's important to know that the collaboration at this level, it's intended as a feedback collaboration and an exchange of ideas, not yet a model collaboration. So at the moment, it's just a collaboration in terms of like communication of feedback, messages, ideas to be able to give a good direction to the development of our project. So the benefits of these new collaboration features is that all this comments and all this feedback is a contextual communication directly inside the model of SketchUp. That allows us to avoid to, for example, share static images via emails, or maybe printing multiple perspective views, floor plan views, to be able to communicate over the different aspects of our project. So printing out these things to be able to sketch on top of them, or maybe taking a lot of notes on paper, on notepads, on flying post-its that they get lost, or even being forced to be in person, to have in-person meetings to be able to communicate in an efficient way. So now we can avoid to use, with this new version of collaboration of SketchUp, we're capable of avoiding all this like traditional and cumbersome way of communicating, and we can do all this communication straight into the model in a way that is fast, that is efficient, and without loss of information. So lots of new benefits in using this new feature. So what's included in this collaboration feature? First of all, the private sharing. Despite from the previous version of the link share, that a link was created, it could have been shared with many people, we had no control on who could actually access our model. Now, in this new collaboration feature, we've got more control. So we've got a private sharing. That means that we can choose and be selective on the people that are going to join our working session. And we can therefore invite these people by entering their email addresses and collaborating with them. We can invite, of course, internal people that got SketchUp licenses, but even external people to our team, subcontractors, stakeholders, clients in general, that probably they cannot even have the SketchUp license, but they will still be able to join this collaboration session. So, other thing that it's included in this collaboration feature is the fact that now we're able to add comment, as I said before, which is valuable feedback straight inside of our SketchUp model. We can have entire complete conversation in threads, back and forth conversations to be able to tackle problems, resolve problems, and give each other feedback directly into the geometry, so attached to the geometry. This commenting feature is also quite easy and intuitive to use, thing that makes it an advantage to be used also by people that they're not very expert in using technology, but they can still be able to join the session and leave feedback and comments. And then in this collaboration feature, there are also live interactions with collaborations. For example, we're capable to see the live avatars, the cursor of the people, what they're doing, being able to follow their camera to see what they're seeing, and vice versa. We can actually bring the attention of the people that they're live on our model to our camera to be able to show what we see as well. And we can also choose if we want to portray the real-time updates and of the modifications of the model that we've created or not. So we've also got the possibility to share and make all this modification appear real time. So all this feature allows, therefore, to present also in real time, even remotely, even with colleagues and with stakeholders that they're on a different geographical location than us. So this is a very powerful tool. So now let's see a little bit more in practice what this feature includes. I'm going to show you some explanatory videos to be able to understand how to use it, especially for those of you that haven't tried it yet. So now we're going to see exactly how it works. So first of all, in this case, we're going to use this collaboration feature with an architectural model, but this feature can also bring a lot of value. It can be useful in many other contexts, for example, in construction, in engineering, in interior architecture, retail, and much more. So to start collaborating with this model, it is important to save it onto Trimble Connect. Trimble Connect is our cloud. It's our cloud platform that allows to store models, and therefore, to be able to collaborate, the model needs to be saved there. So we go in File, Trimble Connect, and Save File on Trimble Connect. We can also open the menu bar of Trimble Connect, as we see pointed in this video. Once the model will be fully uploaded on Trimble Connect, this little icon will be a little cloud, indicating that it's not on the computer, but it is on the cloud. Then, at this point, we can open our collaboration menu bar, which is this one, by clicking on the little people icon. If we want to open this bar otherwise, we can still do it by going in Windows, selecting collaboration bar, and opening therefore this menu. So here we have all the tools to be able to collaborate, including, of course, the tools Share, this button that allows us to invite people. As I said, people that they have a SketchUp license, but even people that don't have a SketchUp license. So we just click on it. If in case we haven't uploaded our model on Trimble Connect here, SketchUp will prompt us to do so at this time. Here we can see that we can find the collaborators that are already present in our model. We still have the share link feature that we used to have before, so we can still copy a link and share it, but we can choose what type of view will be shared, if it's just a scene view or a full model collaboration access. And therefore, we can even go further and choose if we can actually include the visibility of live modification or not. And here we go, in this button, the copy link section. Otherwise, as I said before, we can enter the email address of people that we want to include in our collaboration session to be able to have more control on who can actually access to our model. And we can even include a little note explaining maybe what's the project about and inviting people. Those people will receive an email that will connect them to, therefore, our collaboration model. Okay. So what happens if people are invited as view scenes only? So having a view scenes access only. First of all, they will receive either the link or they will receive an email. And clicking on this link, they will be directed to the SketchUp viewer for web. So it will look exactly like this. Here, they will have the possibility to browse through the different scenes, click on the scenes, play an animation to play them one by one. They will not have visibility over the comments that have been left by other people that they're collaborating with the commenting feature. They will not be able to modify the model because they will not have access to the modifying the drawing tools. But this way of showing the model, it could be a very efficient way to be able to present the project and still guide the people through the project without having to get them to get lost into maybe the navigation tools around the model. So what happens instead if someone is invited with a model and full model access and therefore a comment access? From the side of the designer, the person that is actually creating the model, here we are in SketchUp for desktop, the designer is actually able to see the people that they're live included inside this session. So they're able to see, therefore, the cursors of these people with their names. We can see what tools they're using. Are they orbiting around? Are they commenting? Are they measuring? Are they doing something else? Here we can also find these people in the menu bar at the top, this collaboration menu bar. We can see the avatars, again, and their logos. And therefore, we know all the time who is connected to our session live. So what will they see once they will be invited to the session? So first of all, they will receive an email or a link, and they will be prompted to join, therefore, the model, always via a SketchUp for web viewer. So we see that they've got a lot of tools through which that will help them to navigate through the model. They can also measure. They also have access to the entity info to be able to visualize the information about some pieces of model, some objects, by clicking and accessing all this information. They still have access to all the scenes to be able to view the models in different styles. And other little interesting feature is that by clicking on our own icon on the collaboration task, we're able to bring all the views of all the different people invited to the session to see exactly what we're seeing, as is shown in this model. We can still see the cursors and we can see exactly what we're seeing. We can also browse and change the scene, and also, of course, people connected to our camera will see what we're seeing. And we can see that also the collaboration feature can support the PBR materials and the environments, all these new visualization styles that have been introduced thanks to SketchUp 2025. So all this is possible. Okay. And now, how can we create some comments? To create some comments, it's very easy. It's always done by using the menu bar of the collaboration, of our collaboration. There's either a little button that we can select to be able to attach the comment. We need to select, of course, an object in our model. And as soon as we click, a little hotspot will be created. This little blue bubble speech icon that will indicate that a message is created. When we create a message, a screenshot, an automatic screenshot of the positioning of the camera will be created, and the screenshot will preserve the style and the elements and the scene with which we're creating this comment. Of course, we can enter a message, we can enter a link, some images, and as we can see other people live, they can actually access to the same comment, either by clicking on the little hotspot in the geometry or by accessing to the commenting menu in the collaboration feature. We can see all the list of all the different comments, therefore reply to the comments that they've already been created, and have a threaded communication directly inside the model, and seeing exactly what is being seen and highlighted when this comment is being created. We can answer with messages, but even react with emojis. And now, just to end this topic, I would like to also give you an example of a collaboration workflow in a real case study to understand exactly how it could be used in practice. So this is an example of a real workflow in between where actually a designer, an architect, it is inviting to a SketchUp model some consultants and manufacturers to be able to ask some questions, therefore identify problems and ask how to advance in the development of the project. So in this case, the designer is actually asking if there are any problems in installing a suspended ceiling to hide the different ducts and cables for the external heating. So the consultant is actually receiving this message, visualizing it, and replying to the message, explaining that actually this solution is not possible for different technical reasons. And therefore is actually giving advice, is advising, for example, the use of an outdoor gas heater, and it is putting a linking an image so that the designer can actually see exactly what he's talking about straight into the context. I will just move a little bit forward in this video so we arrive straight to the part where actually the consultant therefore links this image. Here we go. He added an image to the SketchUp commenting. Therefore, the architect can click on the image, can download the image on the computer, and then use this image to effectuate a research per image by using the 3D warehouse. The 3D warehouse, which is our immense library of many SketchUp prefabricated objects that we can download for free directly inside SketchUp. Here you go. We can make a research per image, import the image, find similar elements, and then import them directly into our model. So this real case study shows how this collaboration can be used in cases they're similar to this. But the collaboration can be used also, for example, to communicate over dimensions, over materials, with manufacturers, and in general, all the different type of consultants. It can also be used internally it can also be used in between same team members. For example, if someone is making a site inspection on site, it can take pictures of what has been made and the existing conditions and send them via this commenting feature in SketchUp directly to the person that is working, for example, in the office, so that the information can arrive in a more streamlined, live way, and the colleagues, they can start to work on the modification right away. Here we go. So now, team number 2, documentation. So we've made a lot of different improvements in terms of documentation. As I said before, especially improving the use of layout. Layout that is actually very powerful complementary application to the ecosystem of SketchUp that allows people to be able to import the models, the 3D models of SketchUp right into this layout to create pages and therefore layout pages to create a 2D documentation of the projects. So now, first of all, layout is becoming more and more similar to SketchUp. So the entire UI framework, it's more and more similar to SketchUp, so that people that are used to use SketchUp, they can be more familiar with this type of environments, and they can start to use layout right away without wasting time and feeling comfortable. So these improvements that we're making on layout, they're actually making it easier to transit from a 3D drawing and project to the 2D. As we can see in this image, layout, this is a little reminder, layout can also support the PBR materials and the environments that they've been introduced with the visualization feature of SketchUp 2025. So in layout, we introduced new tools. For example, the trim, the extend, the chamfer and fillet, the trim through which we can actually cut the excess lines, or extend through which we can actually extend a line to another point, to another line. So all these are like tools. For example, the chamfer that allows us to create bevel corners with a specific fillet radius. All this actually helps people to be able to draft and create 2D drawings very quickly in layout in a much more easy and fluid way. Because we've noticed that sometimes it is not necessary, in some cases, in some works, it's not necessary to always create the 3D model. Sometimes it's just enough to create a 2D model, a 2D image, and that's so much easier and straightforward, and that makes us save a lot of time. Therefore, we want to make this possibility of workflow available and easy to everyone. So now we can draft on layout with much more ease. Another thing that we included in layout are new scrapbooks. What are those? Scrapbooks are basically blocks, let's say the equivalent of CAD blocks, some images that are pre-made, and we can stick them on top of our scene of layout to be able to add detail inside of our layout sheet. So that means that, for example, we've got new scrapbooks of architectural features, for example, like doors, that they include also some masking capabilities of being able to mask the underlying lines. And that allows us to be able to add and tweak our 2D drawings that they come from SketchUp in a few seconds without having to modify, therefore, the 3D drawings itself. So if you want to add a door very quickly, we can do it with a couple of clicks without having to go on SketchUp, remodel, and then re-uploading our model view on layout. And then we've also improved the DWG fidelity of import and export. So now layout is becoming more reliable, a more reliable complement of both SketchUp and all the other CAD softwares. So in these new features, we are able to, when we export a model from layout, an image from layout, and we import it on, for example, AutoCAD, all the SketchUp tags are converted into DWG layers. When we export also from layout, we are capable to export each page as a separate file, and also we can also we can also transit. Sorry, so we can actually we're actually capable to see all these different elements created on layout in a more clean way on SketchUp. For example, all the arcs, the tables, the polylines, and the text. It is actually very easy to see and converted very easily straight away on CAD. So here is an example. This is an example of a layout file that has been exported from layout and imported in AutoCAD. We can see that actually all the SketchUp tags, they appear in these DWG files. What does it mean? It means that we can actually switch on and off all the different layers very quickly, and therefore advance in our modeling very fast. So for people that they use this interoperability workflows, this is going to be a real game changer. And here we can see how we can change all this new and toggle on all these new features. When we export from layout, we can see this new options of export each page as a separate file and export all to model space into the CAD software. Okay, we've done new advancements and new modification also in the theme of the context. So now we're able to import the context in a more precise way, specifically by improving the two tools, Add Location and Scan Essential. So Add Location, what is this tool? This is a tool that allows us to being able to enter the address, a specific geographical address of a site, and being able to import a flat mesh or a flat image or a 3D mesh of the terrain with all the satellite imagery straight into SketchUp. And this is very easy, a quick way to be able to import context straight into SketchUp. Now, this tool of Add Location gives us the possibility also to be able to import 3D buildings and 3D shapes of the buildings present around in our area, in our site. This, in fact, allows to be able to add context very quickly and, for example, perform some studies, for example, shadow studies, taking in account all the different volumes that they're present in that location. So let's see this video to understand a little bit better what I'm talking about. First of all, we open Add Location in File, Add Location. We can add the specific geographical address, find this address, and this tool is actually now georeferencing our model. In this case, we're looking for downtown Denver, which is actually a quite flat city. So if we continue, we can choose to import this site as a flat site image. In this case, downtown Denver is quite flat, so we're going to go for that. We can dezoom and choose to include more data into our selection. That will mean the data for the ground, so the satellite image. But also we can see that as we stretch this selection, now SketchUp is including more buildings that they're highlighted in blue and that they will be therefore imported into our SketchUp. We've got more also advanced setting menus to be able to control how this geometry is going to be imported. And if we click import, in a few seconds, we can see that all this context, geographical context, is straight away integrated inside our SketchUp model. And our SketchUp model is also georeferenced. So it's important to say that all this information is already sorted out in the tags and organized. And if we enter and try to edit these volumes in this geometry, we can realize that actually it is still a SketchUp geometry. So everything we're capable to modify and anything as we wish, improve or add more elements as we wish, straight away inside these volumes. Now let's make the same process, but in this case, we're going to import another area, for example, San Francisco, which is a city very hilly with a lot of like hills. And we can see how it is possible to do the same by importing also, for example, a 3D mesh of the terrain. So we do the same thing. We enter the address, we select the area, we choose to import it as a mesh, a terrain mesh. We choose to import also the building. And we can also choose the type of density of this mesh to be able to import. For example, in this case, we're adding a little bit more of terrain at the time with different spacing of this mesh to be able to see how it's going to imported directly into our SketchUp. As we can see now, we've imported the entire terrain with our hill, with the image, with the buildings, that they are also placed correctly in relationship to the ground. We can also see all the different type of mesh and the details that we can create. And just to let you know, all this information of buildings and ground, they're taken from the OpenStreetMaps, which is a free and open database that is curated by some volunteers. So all the information, they will not be perfect, but they will be just good enough to be able to integrate context straight away inside of SketchUp. Other modification and improvement of the integration of context inside of SketchUp are the new features that we find also in Scan Essentials. So what is Scan Essentials? Scan Essential is an extension that allows us to bring inside of SketchUp points cloud. What are points cloud? For those of you that don't know what they are, points cloud, as the word says, they're big clouds composed by millions of little tiny points. These points cloud, they can be captured, for example, by scanners, and each of this tiny point, it becomes a snap point that we can use inside our modeling software, in this case inside of SketchUp, to be able to model, to be able to measure, and to be able, therefore, to create our geometry and taking into account the existing context. So now we've had this extension for a while, and now we are improving some of these features. Mostly three different aspects. So before, we could create a ground mesh of the soil just with a few clicks using one tool that it's part of Scan Essentials. But now we're capable also to create this mesh of surface even by projecting something on top of a vertical surface. I will show you just in the next video. Also, we've got a second point. So now we can control the visibility of these points clouds in SketchUp. We could already do it, but now the difference is that this visibility linked to each scene, it will be kept in memory and respected also in layout. So when we import our SketchUp model into layout, we will be able to have the same settings of visibility of our point cloud according to the scene that we created. And then, third news, we've got the possibility to be able to change, to keep the location of our point cloud, and therefore move it to, for example, model something in a more easy way. But then we were capable to be able to redirect, reposition our point cloud and our model to the original location. That means that if we need to re-import a new point cloud to be able to add modification, we can still do it in a very easy way. Okay, let's watch this tiny video to understand a little bit more what I was talking about the surface mesh. So here we go, SketchUp for desktop with a point cloud of a Gothic church. So this is a quite rich and complete points cloud that includes the exterior, but even the interior of this church. We can see that we can use, for example, the section planes to be able to create section cuts, and to be able to help us to visualize this point cloud in a more precise way, and, for example, visualize the interior of this church. So there are also other ways to be able to create section and visualize only what's important of this points cloud in order to model with ease. For example, even the clipping box, like in this case. We're using a clipping box, and once we have selected the area that we want to work on, now we can create a surface that will be a reference, that will be used as a reference, and that will be projected directly on top of the point cloud that is in front of it. So In this case, we can see that we can choose the spacing of the mesh grid, and we can see that this surface is being directly projected on top of the point cloud. In the first attempt, actually, is not that great, because actually the spacing of the mesh is not precise. So we're reducing the spacing to be able to have a better outcome. So we're repeating the process, and now we will see that this time, this mesh, it actually respects all the details, the bumps, and respects correctly the facade of this church in a few seconds. So we've got something that can be used already, geometry taken straight from the point cloud, straight inside of SketchUp. So now we can even use in the default tray, for example, the soften edges tool to be able to clean and this surface and make it more readable. And now we're using the second new functionality introduced with this version of SketchUp that allows us to project the texture and the coloring of this point cloud straight onto our SketchUp geometry. So we've got the possibility to be able to choose the pixel size, or even choosing with what color the missing information in between the points is going to fill, for example, with an average color. So by doing that, we can see that now the texture is being projected on top of our surface and our mesh. And we can see that in a few clicks, this is so powerful, because in a few clicks, we're able to have a 3D geometry and a texture that respects exactly the reality. Other important information is that we can project this texture even on straight and flat surfaces. So this is possible to do. So it's a very easy and quick hack to be able to import context and create context from the point cloud straight away inside of SketchUp. Okay, and now let's pass on the theme, the fourth theme of all these updates of the new version of SketchUp. The visualization. Let's see in detail what is new. So the visualization team, we're continuing actually to develop the features that we introduced also with the version of 2025 at the beginning of this year. So now we can see that we can give more and more control to the user to be able to customize the visualization of their models and giving them more control. So we've got multiple features, one of which is the colored ambient occlusion. So what is exactly the ambient occlusion? So in a very easy way to describe, an ambient occlusion is a sort of shading that appears when two surfaces encounter with one another. And therefore, shade is created in this corner. So this is a technique that is used in 3D modeling to be able to give a little bit more of depth to our models and make them pop a little bit more and give also a little bit more realism. So far, the ambient occlusion that was available to be used on SketchUp, it was of a default color black. But now finally we've got the possibility to even be able to choose a color and therefore to color this ambient occlusion with any color we want to. This allows to give more realistic results based, for example, on the contextual lighting conditions. For example, we can make this ambient occlusion a little bit warmer or cooler according to our image and our style. But we can also, of course, create some more abstract stylistic possibilities. So this is a feature that is quite fun to use. I invite you to go and have a look and see what creative outcome you can actually have. And also, we introduce also the ambient occlusion multiplier. What is this? So previously, we could just choose the length of our ambient occlusion. However, if we zoomed a lot, very far from the model, at a certain distance from this model, this ambient occlusion, it wasn't visible because it was too little. So now what we did, we added a multiplier that allows us to actually double and increase this ambient occlusion depth. So it is possible to be viewed by different perspectives of camera. So this is also something very practical that we improved. Another visualization, other improvement of visualization. So first of all, I got good news. We've heard to all the comments that you gave us about the material preview menu. Many people asked us, expresses the wish to be able to go back to the flat image preview of the material. So now it is possible to have it. We can see here on the bottom left of our image, we can see that now we can choose in between a perspective cube with shading, which indicates that is actually PBR material, but we can also choose to go back to pre-visualize our material with a flat image to be able to see more in detail what this material is. Also, we introduced the invert roughness button, which allows us just with a click to be able to invert the roughness of the texture map of roughness. This texture map actually tells us where the material is shiny and where is rough, therefore dull. But with this button, we are able to invert this value. And in this case, of course, in this video, we can see how extreme this, this impact can be. But in case of a bumpy material, that means that we can actually expand the range of possibilities that we can reach in terms of personalization of the material. So a little bit more possibilities to be able to customize our view and our materials. And to finish, I'm going to also go over a few general improvements that we've done a little bit to improve the workflows and speed up everything. So, for example, we've done some performance improvement. For example, by adding all these new features, actually the models are starting to become very big, especially the PBR materials, the environments. So it is important that now SketchUp keeps up to date with all these improvements. And that's why SketchUp now is becoming more and more powerful to be able to support all this new modification. SketchUp is becoming more agile. So these performance improvements, they're actually very technical, but the goal is very simple. Like in simple words, actually SketchUp is becoming faster, more efficient, and also more reliable. So in between those improvements, we've got memory improvements, where the model loading time is getting faster, where also the graphic rendering efficiency is getting faster, and also the work efficiency. For example, we are making this work efficiency more productive. We optimize, for example, the different little manipulations that we can use that users actually use every day. For example, selecting the scene transition is now improved of 80% improvements of frames per second, and even the zoom extend is 90% more improved. Just to give you an example, here we can see how the loading speed is improved. There's an example of SketchUp 2025 on the right and SketchUp 2026 on the left, and we can see how the models now they load a little bit faster, which on a daily basis it can make a big difference. We also introduce the possibility to be able to scale the live components. So what are the live components? Just for those of you who don't know what they are actually components that they can be found on the 3D warehouse. They can be downloaded. Little side note, from the version 2025 of SketchUp, now there's also a new section in the 3D warehouse called SketchUp Libraries, where all people that have got an active SketchUp license, they can access and they can find a lot of live components that have been developed from the SketchUp team. And those live components, they can be downloaded into SketchUp, and to be able to modify them, we need to use this menu that we can see also in the GIF, through which we can choose and change all the different parameters. So up to this version, these live components, they couldn't be rescaled because, of course, they were linked to the specific parameter. However, now we are trying to make them also, we're making them also scalable. We can use the scale tool. We can use the handle grips to be able to stretch them and adjust them to, for example, in this case, this door opening according to what we need. So it's important to know that at the moment, not all the existing live components, they are resizable and they've got this feature. But with time, slowly, little by little, actually, we're trying to turn all the slab components rescalable. Same thing would be for applying materials. Now, it is possible to apply some materials to the slab components, even if they're not included into the predefined parameter of the lab component. We've also made some modification in the modeling improvements. For example, we've got now the visibility of the scale grips. They're visible, even if they're hidden by other geometry. Before, for example, if the scale grips that were behind a wall or another piece of geometry, like they wouldn't be visible, so we'd have to orbit around the model. It would be quite complicated to take them, to be able to click on them. But now, finally, we are able to see them also through this geometry, thing that is going to make it much easier to model our models in a faster way. We can also undo and redo the action of the changes made on some scenes. For example, if we made some modification on the scene and we refresh and re-update the scene, and then we realize that we actually moved slightly the camera and we didn't mean to do that, so that was actually a mistake. Now we can actually go back to the action by simply doing Ctrl-Z or Command-Z for Apple to be able to step backwards and go back to the previous recording of our scene. So this is a very, very handy feature that we've introduced in this new version of SketchUp. And then we also made a little bit of changes on the purge unused assets command. Before, it was a little bit hidden into the menu, so now we made it accessible in a more intuitive way. We can find it in the edit menu, and now we can also choose what type of assets we want to purge. For example, do we want to purge only the materials or only the tags, or even the components or environments? So it's up to us to choose what to purge, one or multiple things, or all the things at the same time, which it can be quite handy. And earlier we spoke about the improvement of interoperability on layout, but also there are a lot of improvement of interoperability with the DWG files also on SketchUp. For example, we've improved the import and the export of this DWG file. For the import, now we're capable of importing all the layers of the CAD files as groups in SketchUp. Also, we're able to flatten all the lines. We will see just in the next slide in a more intuitive way. We've also improved the export. Now all the 3D section planes, they can actually be exported to the DWG setting. So all these planes, they're preserved, they're going to be visible in the DWG. And there are also improvements in terms of the IFC. So now there is a consolidation of the IFC 2.3 and the IFC 4. Now when we export in IFC, there's only one single choice, which is the general IFC file. And this is a very helpful tool, because it helps users to eliminate the need to be able to reclassify all the model. So going back to the AutoCAD, understanding exactly how it exports, here we can see, how to import. Here we can see that when we import a SketchUp a DWG file, we can see that before, in the version 2025, it was all in the same group, as we can see in the outliner at the bottom. But in the new version 2026, we can see that now there are different, all the layers are converted into groups. And also when we import a DWG, we've got the option to choose if we want to flatten the line work. Because sometimes when people, as you may know, when people are drawing in the CAD softwares, they may make some errors and put some points on a different level of the axis Z. And therefore, when we re-import those on a 3D software, such as SketchUp, we see all these little errors. Now we can directly fix all these errors by choosing the option to import the line work flattened, which will flatten everything up, and we will have an individual surface all at the position 0 of the axis Z. We can also see how importing DWG files now on SketchUp can actually is capable of keeping the hatches, and the solid hatches from the DWG, now they're converted into surfaces, eliminating therefore the need to having to redraw these surfaces. And we can also keep the colors attribute to the layer in the DWG file. And we see that also in SketchUp. And lastly, we've got, I would like to talk about this new feature that can help a lot of people to be able to customize their workspace and be able to be more efficient, advance more efficiently in the development of the project. So now, first of all, it's easy to be able to find the panels in the default tray. We can simply right-click on top of the tray to be able to add these new panels, for example, materials, tags, etc. And we can also slide these panels outside of the default tray. For example, we can put this different menus floating into our viewport, into the working space, or we can even snap them to the sides of our viewport. So being able to customize our workspace as we wish. This news is also available on layout. Okay, so I know that this was a lot of information. There are a lot of new features that they're very interesting and that they got a lot of potential to improve your workflows. So I gave you a general overview of what's new in this new version of SketchUp. And now we can pass on to your questions. Let's see what you asked. Thank you for all the emojis. Okay. So, is the collaboration feature available on iPad? So, this collaboration feature at the moment is not available on iPad yet, but it will be in December. So just wait a little bit longer for using it on iPad. Then, is it possible to delete comments once they are no longer needed? Yes, it is possible to delete your own comments or mark them as resolved. So this will, I will actually show you on a SketchUp file. It's going to be easier to understand. I will open this collaboration feature file. So here we can access to the comments. This is a file that I made, a collaboration that I made with myself. But on your own comments, you've got the little section here, and you can either mark as resolved, which will bring this message all at the bottom, where there will be all the resolved comments and messages, or you can even, if it delete permanently your actual comments. Okay, what is the maximum size of a SketchUp model that can be shared for an optimal collaboration? Well, there's not really an actual limit of size. It really depends on your type of device, how capable it is. So potentially we can use very large files, but it is always recommended to keep the files very light, quite small, to be able to be optimal during this collaboration feature. And another thing that I would highly suggest is to be careful with the environments. So the environments which they've been introduced in the previous version of SketchUp, which are this kind of like dome lighting effects that they diffuse the natural lighting into our SketchUp model. They're very beautiful. They help us to customize the view of our model in a very interesting way, but they're quite heavy. So do not forget to purge your model as often as you can, especially the environments, because they can make the model super heavy and create some potential problems. So what is, okay, I already read that one. Okay. Does this new collaboration feature allow multiple users to make changes and work on the same model simultaneously? No. So this collaboration feature at the moment is intended as an exchange of feedback. So it is not yet a way to collaborate simultaneously and modify simultaneously the model. The idea is that our developers, they're working on that. So at one point, we hope that would be possible. But at the moment, this is not possible. So it is just intended to be able to exchange feedback. So is it possible to export all comments to an Excel file automatically? No, we cannot export the comments. The comments, they stay into the SketchUp, but this is the actual point of this collaboration feature, is to actually have contextual feedback that stays into the model and that is attached to the geometry, so that it doesn't get disconnected from the context that is originally created from. Okay. Do all people invited to the collaboration project have to create an account on SketchUp? So, not all the people. So it depends. As I mentioned before, we can still share a link. So share our model by using a link. So we can share a link, and that means that anyone with a link can actually click on the link and will be automatically redirected into the collaboration feature. In that case, people will not need to create a SketchUp account, which is called TID, T-I-D, Trimble ID. So in that case, people will be able to access the model directly. However, if we invite people by entering their email address, in that case, if they don't have a SketchUp license, they will have to create a Trimble ID, which is free of charge, and which will be just a login account to be able to access to the model. Okay, how is it possible to create point clouds? So, good question. So in the example that I showed you before in the video, this point cloud, I reckon it was created by using a scanner, like a highly professional scanner. If you're architects and if you need to buy one of those scanners, we've got a lot of different scanners within our Trimble ecosystem. So the X7 or the X9, which are highly precise, and they can scan the entire environment, indoor and outdoor, at the precision of a millimeter. So these are very reliable. However, points cloud, they can be created also by photogrammetry, for example, by using drones that they take pictures and videos of the space. So then with some secondary applications, some third-party applications, this photogrammetry information is transformed into points cloud. But also, this is the good news, the thing that not many people know, points cloud can be also created by, thanks to the use, by using, for example, iPhone Pros and iPad Pros. Why? Because these devices, they actually contain inside their camera the LiDAR technology, which is a technology that allows to scan the exterior space and therefore to convert it into points cloud. So even like people that don't have a big budget, they can actually get access to these points clouds by using simply an iPad Pro or an iPhone Pro. The point cloud will be created with external application, for example, Scaniverse or Polycam. These are like third-party extensions that they allow you to convert this data from the LiDAR technology into points cloud. But then this points cloud can be, of course, imported into SketchUp. And SketchUp can import different formats of point clouds: PLY, LAS, LADS, E57, and much more. So you can use an iPhone and then have a point cloud and then work straight away on SketchUp. So that's a good news. Okay, it's 58. I will answer another few questions. Okay. Can I add a thickness to the surface of the mesh? I imagine you're talking about the mesh created with the Scan Essential. I'm gonna just open a SketchUp file to be able to show. So if we introduce a point cloud, So this is our Baroscan Essential. For example, I can take the monument. Sorry a second. Yeah, maybe this one. I hope it's the right one. So just in the meantime, I can show you, this is the actual bar of Scan Essential with all the tools to be able to handle Points Cloud. From here, I opened a point cloud that was saved on my computer. Usually take way less time than now, but I don't know why it's taking a little bit longer, maybe because I'm on a video call on a webinar. But then once it will be ready, actually I can answer maybe another question and then go back showing exactly how to use, how to make a mesh. And now we can make it thick. But in any case, once we have a mesh of the surface, we can use this make solid option to give straight away thickness to our mesh and to be able to create, therefore, a solid. Okay. Is it possible to import Revit files directly into SketchUp? Yes, absolutely. We can import Revit files by using an extension called Revit Importer that comes with different licenses of SketchUp. If you want to learn more about this, I advise you to talk to your resellers to be able to understand what license is suitable for your needs and to be able to also to import Revit files. Okay, looks like my SketchUp is actually giving a little bit of problems. So, okay, I think it's already 12. We're over 12. I thank you so much. I think we can stop it here. All the other questions that I didn't manage to share to answer here, I will make sure they will be answered on a document, and therefore we will send this document to you just later. So thank you so much for your presence. I appreciate that, and have a great, wonderful day. Hello, everyone. Bye.